again, my friends. Well, welcome back to the cellar that is Leopard Street, cellar of dreams and occasional wiring frustrations. However, today I'm taking the points we put in the last episode and I'm going to power them up with some servos. So, to do this, I need some 3D printed mounts. If anyone's interested, the file I used to print these, it's linked in the description. It's on my Thingiverse page. SG90 servo mount. 4 of those. 4 servos. And a pack of bits of wire with little bent hooks on the end. What's these called? Sunguilier RC aircraft push rods. Need to test the servos first. Let's go to the desk. This is Leopard Street. Right, here we are at the desk. This is Leopard Street board Z. Yeah, it's very simple. It doesn't really do a great deal. It just sits here. But I can use this to test things, and this is what I'm going to be doing today. So what I need, I have various turnouts on here. So for example, this particular one is Z1. So if I can find Z1 on my system, and if I tell that to throw, it moves. I can tell it to close, and it moves back, and I can tell it to go to its midpoint. Now that matters. I need the midpoint. Basically, I just need to know where the middle is, and then I set the thing to go upright. So what I do is I take out a servo. Now, I test these, 2 reasons. Firstly, I've had them not work before, which is annoying, especially when you've installed them. And secondly, I need to know where this midpoint is so I can fit the little horn onto it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in. I'm going to use this as Z2, which apparently is already set to the midpoint, but we shall see. So this just gets plugged in. So, and it says that's its midpoint, so I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to tell it to move. So if I tell that to throw, it should go one way. And it does. Tell it to close, it should go the other way. Help if I press the right. I'm not quite sure what I've just done there. Probably. I'm using MQTT Explorer, and it's yeah. So that's there, right? I need to tell that to go to the midpoint. So that it thinks is in the middle. And if I just again tell that to close, it should go to one side. It does. Throw, it'll go to the other side. Right. So put that back in the middle. They do normally come centered, but it's worth having a look. So I think that's about the middle of that one. So that one will do. And I know it works, which is the key bit. Sometimes you get these and they're a bit stiff. They're a bit sticky. They are quite cheap though. It must be said. These servos are fairly cheap. I think how much I paid for this. I've got a bag of 10 of them off AliExpress, and they're like £2 each or something if you buy them in decent quantities. The control board is another £3-4. It's not much. Oh, that one's now in the middle, so again we'll test that. And you need obviously a controller of some description to give it the instructions. I'm using ESP32s. You don't need to. If, for example, you wanting a layout you can just control with push buttons, that one works as well. just a normal Arduino, a little Arduino Nano clone will do quite happily with this, and you could give that an array of push buttons to talk to via various methods, and it would drive one of these boards, which will drive 16 servos. You can daisy chain these if your layout needs more. Very simple to do. I've not done it yet, but I will be in the not too distant future, because board L that this lot are going on to is going to need a few more. So that's that. Largely because it's got all the uncouplers to put in. And then it's also got a load of signals that will be going in eventually. I'm quite pleased with these. These are working. If you hold on to them when you're testing them, if they start getting warm, there's a problem. Yeah, you'll feel it. If they're not moving smoothly, you'll feel it, and that's usually a sign that there's something stiff inside them, and not to bother. Most of the ones I've not had any problems with, but I had one batch where about half of them were very stiff. You can usually do this with them, turn them manually, which is quite good. If you can't, that's usually a sign there's a problem. So see, that's gone back to there. Close. Just check they work. And I've got some code. I mean, this is a custom written library I'm using on this. I'll go through it at some point. It's not particularly impressive. But all it's doing is it's got a position, which is where it is now. So it knows that is 0 degrees. So, I want you to go to 10 degrees. And the code is set to go with a constant angular velocity. So many degrees per second. Or I can set it to do a constant time. And that's how I've got the code set up. So I want to go from one point to another. It'll take it about a second. It goes from there to there, it'll do a second. There to there, it'll take a second. And what it does is it says, I am at position 0. I need to be at position whatever. Therefore, how many... It'll say, right, there's a 10 degrees. So what is the time interval to move 1 degree? And then a code loop runs and it goes, enough time has gone, I will move a degree. I'll move another degree. I'll move another degree. You can make them go in microseconds. The way the servo thing is, I did a video on how servos work a while ago. You can tell them to be a lot smoother than they are. For turnouts, this works fine. For signals, I'll probably be doing something else. Right, that's 4 of them. What I also need is my screwdriver. My little screwdriver set, which I have got lurking. Because these do have a little screw that fits into them. And it is a little screw, so I need a little screwdriver. They're in here. Now, in here you get 3 screws with these things. You get a couple of little control horns, which are quite nice. You get 3 screws. The 2 larger ones are designed to go through these holes at the end and screw this to something. I don't need to use those. My servo mount is just a clip. So what I do is I put the small screw in the top and then put this down somewhere and then try, it's quite awkward, to screw this little screw in. And it sits in. If you use the wrong screw, it stands out, which is a problem. But that I can move, put it back to center. That means that ain't going to fall off, which is quite useful because I don't want it to fall off. Right, what I'm going to do is put all of this lot into a bag. Now, I'm just going to put the screws on the other ones of these. And there's all the different control horns. I mean, you could, I'm not, but you could, I've got one of my mounts is here. You could put that there. There is an alternative mount that supports switches. There's like some brackets that sit either side. And the idea is as it moves from side to side, it touches the switches. And you can put switches at the bottom. You can have switches on the top. There is a little, there's one of these with a cross. So you can have it go around and you can make it do other things. and just so that one I've just done back here. So yeah, these are the mounts, and literally this goes in like, yeah, it's push fit. There's some little brackets on the back that hold it. Goes in, and you push it through like that, and it clips in place. And then the rod goes through there, through a little hole in the bottom. There's a little hole, and as this goes side to side, the wire waggles and it moves the point. But there's no screws holding these in, so they just push out. Yeah, he said. As you can see, it bows out a little bit at the back when you're doing this. Yeah, here we go. It's coming out. Press on that bit there with the screwdriver. It'll come out. Yeah, there we are. What's happening here? I know exactly why this is stiff. There are stickers on the side of the servos. And basically, yeah, you can see the stickers started to move on these. So what I'm going to do is peel them off. You don't need the stickers, quite frankly, so get rid of those. Right, I'm going to set the other 3 of these up, and we're going to go to the layout, and I'm going to fit them. I'll catch you at the layout in a sec. Right, so that's the showing of the implements section. Board is unplugged, and I need to put it back onto its back. I have got a little bit of wiring to do for the turnout that is down here, which is still with its loose wires, because this is the one I had to redo. So this comes out and it goes that way. It's worth checking. This is quite heavy. And more to the point, it is quite bulky. So it's worth making sure you know what you're going to do with something before you try and lift it, because that way. Try not to drop it because it is quite heavy, as I say. Like that. And then, yeah, a couple of these little clamps. Get them from Aldi, of all places. There's the other ones here. So it goes on like so. Now we're back under here. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'll bring you over here so you can sort of see. I'm trying to position you so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm not in the way, so to speak. About here. So yeah, I've got to connect this up. That goes to point 15, which is all the way up here. That should be quite straightforward to do. The other 2 might be a little bit more interesting. Blue one's not really going to fit. Brown one is. Work out what I'm going to do with that. First off, however, is got another screwdriver, which is better for this if I can find it. Here we are. So that backs off. This comes around here as a frog wire. There's nothing particularly fancy going on here. Around here like that. There is a little wiring bundle I'd like it to go through if I can. There we are. It'll go through one way, but it will that won't come back. But that goes into there. This is turnout 15. It's frog powered up. I didn't have to disconnect the relay when I took the thing apart. Incidentally, the background noise is my 3D printer going again. I'm printing a glow-in-the-dark spider. Nothing to do with the layout. I've showed you the 2 spiders I printed for my better half a while ago. She wanted a glow-in-the-dark one, so I've now got a glow-in-the-dark blue one coming out. There's a mummy spider in pink. There's a little baby spider in green. And there is a daddy spider that is going to be blue and glowing. Yeah, anyway, right, cutters. So this brown wire goes into there. When I took this apart, what I forgot was that some of these wires were quite short. I also forgot I don't actually have to remove the point completely. All I've got to do is lift it. So what I should have done, which I I didn't because I'm an idiot, I should have left the connectors on. There's plenty of slack for lifting the point up to rewire it, glue it back down, but I didn't. So yeah, anyway, never mind. Right, I've had notification one of my pre-orders from Rails is shipping, so something to look forward to in the not too distant future. I'll take that off. I did get a comment that this isn't in square and it's triggering. Yeah, sorry about that. Normally what happens is I try to put these things where they're not going to get in the way. So usually under track. So if there's a rail going there, it might be in a weird angle. Here I just put it in where I thought it would fit. Now, yeah, how am I going to get this one on here? This is a blue wire. It's got to go into the printer just squeaked. It's got to go in here. Now that's got two. That's what I'm going to have to do is move these green ones because I'm going to have to create myself another little terminal here. So I'm just going to do this. This again, little bit more planning would have been a good idea. I've seen somebody noting about putting electrical boards under the layout rather than as I've got them here. Yes, totally. Elsewhere on the layout, I have panels like Charlie at Chadwick and I think McKinley do the same, of folding down panels. I'm not claiming in the slightest what I'm doing here is original. I copied the idea from Charlie at Chadwick, who has folding down panels. So I thought, I know, that sounds a really good idea. I'm going to do that. So that's what I'm doing. So that's going to go into there. I'm going to put a junction piece across the top, but that's fine. So that one can go into there. I've got this set on a clutch, which is why it's juddering when it's done up. So that is just about long enough to get into that one. But it will get into that one more easily. The problem is I'm going to end up commoning these two. Oh, that's track. I'm just trying to think. Why have I got a blue wire going to there? It's actually going to the track feed. It's not going into that bit. Slight rethink again. I'm going to put that into that one and do it back up. Yeah, get in. I'm going to take that out of that one, both of them. I'm then going to put that into here. Now this one doesn't connect to anything at the top. This is why I'm doing this, is because this will be slightly simpler to do. That into... Assuming, of course, I can actually get my hand in here to hold the thing in place. So I can do the wire up, that is. Get in there. Grr. Rage. It's coming this way. There we are. Right, that's that. I'll put my finger on that. I can hold that in place while I do the screw up. There we are. That's that. It doesn't really need to connect to anything. It's actually just joining two wires together, really. But there we go. Do that one back up. What I can now do is put that connector into there, and this one will reach into there a lot more easily. Again, I basically ended up cutting these wires slightly too short when I made this section. It's my own fault. So yeah, anyway, we're going to get this done, and then I'm going to get these point servos in. They shouldn't take very long to fit, actually. They're normally quite quick. The bit that's going to take time is setting them up. Now, the layout already knows these points exist. JMRI thinks they've got motors, and it thinks they're moving. The board controller, lurking over here somewhere, it thinks they're in, and it thinks they've got servos, because it's sending out the controls to the servo board, and the servo board is sending the commands out to its pins, which don't have anything connected to them. Ooh, this is annoying when you put these wires in here and they keep falling out. And then it's then thinking, well, that has had its time delay. It has completed moving. I will tell the layout the point has changed. The only bit that's actually missing from any of that is the servo to actually make the point move. Right, what I need to do now is put a little bridging piece between those two, and they are back here somewhere, if I can find them. Here's one. This little piece like that, and these are just little forks, and they slot in, and you can turn. They come for the full length of the thing. I don't need the full length of it. I only need 2. I'm going to just cut that with a pair of cutters. And what you can do is you can strip them in across the top, the bigger one I've got at the top here, and you can say, I want these 3 to be one polarity and these 3 to be the other. And away you go. Or in this case, these 2 at the end are going to be one polarity. And back that off, let's tighten that in. Tighten that in. That should now be that point in. Right, now we've got the points in. Let me find some suitable screws for these servo adapters, and we're going to fit some of these. Yeah, these are the right ones. These are the right ones. Little bag of them. All that really matters here is the length of the screws got to be long enough to go through the base of the mount. Tip all of those out. So the mount gets screws through it fairly easily, but this is where it gets slightly tricky. Obviously, I've got to get these positioned correctly, and what I'm going to do, I'll do first, get one of these push rods out. As you can see, they have a little crank in the end, and what that does, find where I put the servos, that might help. It goes into the hole on the end like that. But what I need to do first is set up the servo mount. So that goes through the hole there. Now they start out quite tight, but waggles around quite easily. That then goes through that hole, except the one thing I forgot to do. Well, when I designed this, I was using PLA, which is slightly easier to work with than this, which is PETG, which is slightly cheaper. And as we've said on many an occasion before, I'm in Yorkshire, I'm a cheapskate, so that goes in there. And you see that hooks through there. That goes into that hole, like so, and it should press home. Ouch, it has. And that's the point motor. So as that moves, it moves the arm to the other side. That goes through and it adjusts the point. So what I need to do is make sure I've got these on the right angle. This point here isn't quite square to the board. So what I've got, I'm just going to have a quick look through, is it is so I'm just putting some markings on here. We'll get it out of the way in a sec. Right. So if I I can't zoom in on this. I can't zoom in on this camera angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the manual zoom. I'm going to bring you closer to it. So that is the angle of the tie bar, and I've marked out the 2 positions. So what I now need to do is fit this. That has to go through the tie bar. Now that is in one position, that is in the other. So that's that way. I'm going to move that slightly one way. And then so if I hold that on there, I can move it around a little. I just need to grab a screw because the screw I had has fell out. I haven't taken the mountings out of these yet, which I think I need to. So push you up there like that. Drive it onto there, and then let's check whether that's moving the point or not. And that is in fact moving the point, which is good. So what I now do is put the other 4 screws in. Into that one. And that's the motor fitted. There isn't a lot more to it. The only other thing I need to do, well, there's two more things that need doing before I can start playing and calibrating the point. The actuator wire is obviously far too long. That needs cutting. I do that afterwards. So that's there. That should be fine. And that needs plugging into something. Where is it? It's way over the other side of the board. So I've got some extension leads. I'm going to fit the other 3 of these. I'm going to put the board back and we'll be back. Had to happen. Say hello. Yeah. What are you doing? You been a puss? Yes. Stripey cat. She's about 10 years old now. Maybe actually she might be a bit older than that. About 11 years old, something like that. And knocking things over. And yeah. Yes. Never mind. Cat. Yeah, Smudge has just scared herself silly knocking things over. She's come back to sniff the debris now. This wouldn't be Leopard Street without something. I don't have an extension lead for this servo. This is one for the carriage sidings that nothing can get to yet until I've done the next board. Not a huge problem. It'll wait. What I now need to do is put this board back. This is now slightly harder because this board has got wires sticking up on the other side of it now. Right. Up that way, in that way, in that way, down there. Hopefully that's all right. What we can now see is I've got some bits of wire sticking up. These are slightly dangerous. I will be getting rid of them. I need to calibrate the points first though. So what I'm going to do is put some blue tack on the ends of them. It's not an, oh my God, if I bend over the blue tack will stop me poking my eyes out. It's with a bit of luck, the blue tack poking over the end means I'll see the things are there. Right, what I'm also going to need is this. I don't know how much battery this has got left in it. Fairly fully charged. Rotary tool, which I will be using when I cut that down, which means, where's my goggles? Goggles are down that end. So the next job is test these work. So if I power this board up, in theory, this one won't. These three will. This one has such. This is actually going to get something a little bit more robust to put around the end of it. If I can find some tape somewhere, I'm going to put some masking tape around the end of that one. Ah. And under the desk, there was a load of boxes that fell over because a cat decided to try and climb on them. Because cat. Yes, there's no dealing with them. Right, that goes back into there. It's not going to power on because I haven't switched the layout on. That would help. I'm going to go and do that. So a little bit of crawling on the floor, and layout comes on first. Wait for everything to switch on. And on go the servos and the relays. And we come back around here. Now this one obviously hasn't powered up because I haven't plugged it in. So if I now plug this in, it should switch on. Hey, lights come on. Now, all of these have now moved, except the one over there. So yes, before I do anything else, I am going to find my masking tape somewhere around here. There is a big reel of yellow masking tape. Oh, here we are, that'll do. Now I can hear these servos fighting at the moment because that tells me that at least one of them needs a bit of work. Now, I'm just going to mark all of these. Not least actually because this will help you see them as they move as I test these things out. Because this is all in JMRI, so I can test this fairly easily now. I hope. So that one's very stiff. That one's quite stiff. That one's less so. Right, so if I fire up, get rid of DCC thingy, if I fire up JMRI, Panel Pro, move everything around here out of the way. And what I'm going to have to do is check these sort of work, and then one at a time I need to change the parameters on them to make it all go nicely. So I also need my Arduino software. Yeah, execute that. Right. Meantime, see this one here. Oh, bloody windows popping up on top of other windows all the time. Right, this one. So it's too stiff that way. Oh! Every time you try and start a piece of software, do you want to update this? No, I don't. Right, that piece there is now loose in the middle. And this one here is also loose. Right. Reason I did that is I wanted to take the stress out of the unit itself. I haven't taken the springs out yet, out of the point motors. I'll do that later. What I want to do now is calibrate these points. This is quite a tedious process, so I'm not going to do this on camera, but basically this motor is set for -10 degrees to +10 degrees. So what I need to do is say, right, well, in such and such, actually I'm going to have to take the springs out first. In this position, I'm happy. The other position, oh, it's gone too far. So instead of it being 10, I might say, I'll set that to 5. Or it needs to go a little bit further. It's an iterative process. So I'm going to take the springs out of these. If I can find my kniff, we'll have a look and I'll show you how I do that. It's fairly straightforward, actually. Let's have a look. Right, I'm going to turn the camera around so I can zoom it in. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is take the spring out of this one. Now the spring is on the top. This is our code 75 points, code 100 they're not. And what I've got to do, these two little metal clips need bending back slightly. I'm going to have to do one and then do the other. They bend back. This bit of plastic here comes off. And the spring that was in the middle has sprung. Just need to get something I can get hold of that with. Where's it gone? I think it's gone into the... Just use the camera a little. I want to see where that spring's gone. I rather suspect it's gone down into the workings of the thing, which is slightly annoying. What it means is that now moves freely. I think I can see it. Is that it? No, that it? No. Anyway, and then you just put this piece here back on. As is useful because this controls the movement of the point blades, or at least it can do. So and then I'm going found the spring. Here. They're little. It's worth knowing where they are. There is a huge problem this day and age with delinquency among springs. So if you don't know where your springs are, you're not a very good parent for springs. That's all I'm saying. Yes, I never said I was sensible. Right, that piece is in there, and hold these clips back over just to hold it. There we go. That's that one. Reason I need to move that, if I'm just now, I tell that point to move. You've got to see what I'm doing with it. So if I do that, see that is too hard over that way. But that way, it's okay. So what I need to do is go into my version of the board control software, dismiss every single one of the wretched pop-ups that keeps coming up, and find this one. Now this is 0.11, which means it's number 10 in my list. And what I don't know, some bits and pieces out of the way. Which way is that at the moment? Right. What I'm going to do is reduce one of the settings. Now the board's actually going to reset now. To change these, I've got to go into the source code and change the values in there. On Dingleberry, I had this set up with a piece of software that I could go in and start fiddling with them. I didn't do it here, basically because I want the board controllers to be doing quite a bit more work. Ooh, they're going. Failed upload. Right, let's try again. Caps lock was on. Yeah, I didn't do it here because it's basically do it once and forget about it. Oh, there's a cat meowing at me again. Hello, what are you doing? Are you going to come up and join? Is that what you're doing? Are you coming up here? You're going to join in? Yes, meow. Meow to you too. Yes, so right, that's come on. So that is now loose. Yes, you're a puss. Over here. Wait. You're in the way if you stay there. She's on the desk currently playing with a mouse. You come up here. Come on, up. You can't stay there. You're in the way. Ooh, cat. Right. Anyway. So that way is still hard. You get out the way. Ooh, kitten. But that way's not moved much. Right. So what I'm going to do, so that is in its throne position. I think up here. Come on. There we go. Right. Pussycat. Yes. Anyway, she's been trying to play with the mouse again. So that's thrown. So I need to adjust the thrown position on that one to be that. I'll go in and say the closed position is a little bit different. And if I now tell this to close, right, so got that the wrong way around. Closed position. To that, thrown position to that. Let me just upload that and we shall see. So again, that's going to move, and I've got, yes, my little fairy friend here anyway. So while that works, hopefully that's going to continue. Yes. She's gone off to go and try and get in the ceiling again. But I'll say this is a little bit of an iterative proposition. The awkward bit is knowing which way is which. This is not set to be inverted, so it should be all right. Right. So that's now looser, which is what I wanted. So if I now tell it to change, it's come over a lot looser. Change back. Cat behind. Say hello. I'm going to say hello, are you? Because you're a pest. You are, aren't you? You're a pest. Yeah. Anyway. With you, you're in the way. Oi. Yeah, never mind. Cat helping, allegedly. Right, so that is the diverging route. That is the dead ahead route. Now, the dead ahead route, I'm actually happy with there. So what I need to do is change the diverging value a bit more. I'll do that. Tell it to go to its diverging route and then change that and upload that again. So now hopefully it's going to move a little bit further this way when it resets. And you'll know when it resets because you'll see this signal change. Or at least you'll see the signal. They'll go out and they'll come back on again. As it does. I've got it set up to do a little light test when a board fires up. So basically it turns every LED on full. Then it turns every LED on half. Then it turns them all off. There we go. Off. Light test. Off. Back to where we were. That's better than it was, but it's still loose. So again, check the other direction. It's fine. This direction here. I've set this to a 25 degree off. It's now basically a 0 on that side and 25 degrees on this side. It obviously needs to be a little bit more. So I'm going to change that to 30. And up low. So yeah, this will now do it again. This one's not going to be too bad. I've only actually got 3 points to do this to. There's no point trying to. I've got a cat in the ceiling. Yeah. I've only actually got the 3 points I can do this to. And then I can try driving trains over them again. This time with it automatic rather than me having to do it. There we go, off again, resetting. And that's now good enough. It's only got to just touch the stock rail. It doesn't have to be held against it particularly harshly. I'll do that. And that's a nice slow acting motor. I don't know if you can hear the click. I mean, if I'll just move this right next to the point. Fuzzy thing next to the point. This is the point changing. I don't know if you can pick that up. The sound of the relay clicking is actually louder than the sound of the point, which I'm quite pleased with. Right, I'm going to do the other two, and I'm going to be back. Right, these now will work. Smudges around and may run off very shortly. Nope, she just looked at me. Right, I now need to cut this off. I'm going to use this rotary tool. I'm going to come at it from a slight side angle because I don't want to scratch the rails. And once I've cut it, I'm going to grind it down. Is the way I tend to do this. as the thing stalled. What I'm doing, I'm being careful with it because if I make this too hot, it's going to melt the plastic of the sleeper. Now that's sticking up quite a bit at the moment. If I put that there, you can sort of see that sticking up. That needs to be down below the level of the rail, so I'm going to have to grind that down. And this is where it gets hot, so I need to be careful. So again, still sticking up a bit. I'm trying to avoid melting the point, is the key bit. I keep going. So it's still sticking up a little bit, so I'm still going to have to grind it a little bit more. I have rather unfortunately clipped the point a little there. I can live with it. Right, let's try changing that one again. And the wagon test. Rolls over freely that way and rolls over freely that way. I'm going to do that to the other two. I'm going to leave point number 15. Catch you in a sec. Okay, that's these points now trimmed down to a suitable level, sanded smooth. Yeah, I've caught the track in one or two places, which isn't ideal, but the key bit is I can run a track rubber over the top of it without it catching. That's a pretty good test. Essentially, there shouldn't be anything on a rail locomotive or any rolling stock that hangs below rail height. Because if there is, it's going to derail as soon as it hits a set of points. So it should be pretty good on that. The other point, yes, it doesn't work yet. The polarity's in, it's wired up. So what I'm now going to do is bring a Cheshire back in. But this time, I'm not going to have to touch anything. So track power on, select Cheshire. Here it is in forwards mode. Now to start with, I'm going to bring her in. Interesting. That's better. So this point hasn't changed. It should do. I'm going to bring her onto this road. Do this first so we can just come up alongside the existing track work. So here she comes. Coming down here quite nicely. And this is onto platform 4. So we go past the new tracks. Belong to the new signal. So go back. Back down to the start area. And now we're going to come into the goods area. So the goods yard signal is now showing green to say that route is set for departure. So we can come in here. Again, I can't go much further because the next border along is not set. But it's that point done. And she rolls quite happily down onto that one. Bring her forward, I'll change that one. which is the only other one I can really test at the minute with a train under power. As we roll backwards over the frog of that one. So, that's it for this one. Just send her back over since I can actually set the departure. So the departure signal goes green again. Now I've had a few little comments about this. At the moment I'm using these signals to tell me which way points are set. Now this is a digital layout, obviously. Nothing to do with these signals requires this to be a digital layout. Yes, I'm using JMRI to drive the trains. You could use JMRI purely to drive the layout, as in control the points, control the signals, control building lighting, while you use a normal DC system to manage things. You could use JMRI to control relays to switch which bit of track is going to be controlled by which, say on a 2-channel controller, or you could just use a control panel. The MQTT system I'm using, you could have a control panel with traditional switches, which it listens to, and it then sends the commands to change points, which means you can have signals integrated with it. You can do all that sort of stuff. That's fine. But that's this board until I get some more track in. Obviously, all of these are going to have sidings added to them. Till I've got those in, I can't do a great deal with it. What I need to do next, which is going to be next week's job, is this board here, which is going to get the same. This is going to have 3 signals. There's going to be 2 over here for platforms 5 and 6. There's going to be 1 down here somewhere. There's 1 down there. That's 1. There's going to be a signal about here, which is going to be platform 1. They're going to go in. I've got those. I need to connect up the relays for these points here. I need to put in the power feeds for all of those. They're in, they just need wiring in. I need to put in the servos for that. I've got everything I need to do it on this board. The furthest board, which will let me use that crossover at the end, that needs its controller doing. That needs a lot more work. But board L is now done. I'm now going to work on board M, which is this one. And even if I haven't got the run round operational, I'll then be able to back trains into the good sidings. At some point, I'm going to have to order some more track. I'm not going to do that until I'm ready to actually lay it. I want to get these 2 boards here working before I lay the sidings. But what I wanted to do was get all of the track working. But you've got to start somewhere. So here, a little bit of an expansion. All of the points for Leopard Street are now in. I've just got another 5 to power up. There's 4 on this board and there's 1 on board N down at the bottom end. But that's that. That's going to be it for this video. This week coming, like I say, I'm going to do some more work on this. That's probably going to be off camera. What I'm going to try and focus on is doing some running trains videos. Hopefully I've got a pre-order turning up, so we'll be having a little look at that. And I'm going to then have a look at some other bits and pieces, because I'm aware I've been doing track wiring for a little while, and to be honest, I want a little bit of a break for it. So I'm going to get board M powered and operational. I'm then going to do some other stuff for a bit. But that's been it for this video. This has been Leopard Street. This is Smudge, who is in the way, as usual. You can say hello. Meow. You can say something in a meow. The furry jury. What do we have? You're going to say something? You're going to purr? Meow. You're going to sniff the microphone. No, not bothered. This has been Leopard Street. Likes, comments, shares, more than welcome. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you very much, and goodbye.